welcome back to local2.ca and Andy Martins on Political Points. I hope you had a great weekend. It's the March 21st edition, Monday, March 21st. And we're going to talk some federal politics here with the Liberal candidate, Christian Provenzano. Thank you for coming into the studio.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much, Andy.
And we're getting close to a possible election call with the budget tomorrow. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, the budget will be tabled in the House of Commons tomorrow, and Stephen Harper needs the support of one of the opposition parties to pass the budget. And so it very well could turn into a federal election. I think that the ball's in really the Prime Minister Harper's court. If he doesn't want a federal election, I think the Liberal Party has been very clear about what we would require to support the budget. But we don't expect he's going to pay much mind or respect to that. He seems to be single-minded on a few issues that we certainly won't support. So it will likely be up to the Bloc or the New Democrats to support the budget.
What are some of the big issues right now that your leader will not support in this budget?
Well, we've been very clear that with respect to the F-35 purchase, for instance, it looks like that the Prime Minister is planning on spending about $30 billion on jets. And it's not that we don't support more resources and equipment for the military, but that was an untendered contract, so it was a single source contract. And we very strongly believe that you get the best value for Canadian dollar when you have multi-source and when you tender contracts and you have a competitive bid process. If you have a competitive bid process, it generally drives prices down. So we don't support spending $30 billion on jets, and that didn't go through a competitive bid process. We also do not support spending $10 billion on large U.S.-style prisons. That's $40 billion on jets and jails, and we feel very strongly that middle-class Canadian families need some attention and resources. So if the budget is looking to spend $40 billion on jets and jails, it won't be supported by the Liberal Party.
What can your leader, Michael Ignatieff, offer Canadians that the Prime Minister hasn't done in the last 7 years? Well,
I think that there's a very significant value choice between the Liberal Party of Canada and the Conservative Party of Canada. And I think there's a very significant difference between leadership styles of Stephen Harper and Michael Ignatieff. Michael Ignatieff is advocating and will lead a government that is transparent and accountable. We have a really neat public policy initiative called the Open Government Initiative that we'll be campaigning on during the general election. And that's a significant contrast to Stephen Harper, who has a very closed, secretive government, who does not give MPs the information they need to make decisions. Just this last week, the Speaker of the House of Commons had indicated found that the Conservative government was in contempt of Parliament twice. I think this is the first Prime Minister that's ever been found in contempt of Parliament 3 times in the same year. So you have a very different style of individual. I think Michael Ignatieff will be a leader that respects our parliamentary institutions. With respect to our platform is focused on the Canadian family. We're concerned about healthcare. That's a big issue. We have the Accord coming up in 2014. And we're concerned about innovation, and we're concerned about regional economic development. So we're going to have a platform that I strongly believe will be very suited to our community. Whereas the Conservative platform is focused on corporate tax cuts, jets, and jails. And I would suggest, in my experience and opinion, that what we're going to be speaking to the community about is more consistent with our community's values.
Would your leader, speaking of transparency in that, in the media last week, the government of Canada, the Prime Minister's changing it to the Harper government. Is that a right thing to do?
I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was shocking, actually. The government of Canada is the government of Canada. It doesn't belong to Stephen Harper. It didn't belong to Paul Martin. It didn't belong to Jean Chrétien. It doesn't belong to the Prime Minister. It belongs to the Canadian citizens, and it belongs to the members of Parliament that were elected to represent them. But what we've seen in the last number of years is a centralization of authority from the members of Parliament in the House of Commons to the Prime Minister's office, and to issue an edict from the Prime Minister's office to the bureaucracy to say, refer to this government not as the government of Canada, but as Stephen Harper's government, is, I think, egregious, and I think it's unacceptable. And it's something that I was affronted by because, I live in Canada. I don't live in Stephen Harper's Canada.
That's right.
I live in our Canada.
Right.
And personally, I wouldn't support not only Stephen Harper doing it, but I wouldn't support the leader of my own party doing that.
Right, yeah.
And if I'm elected, I will be elected to the government of Canada, not to Stephen Harper's government or not to Michael Ignatieff's government. But I think it's another example of how different Stephen Harper is from previous prime ministers and from the leader of the Liberal Party
It
of
sends
Canada.
the wrong message to Canadians, doesn't it?
It sends a very elite message, and it sends a very close-shop message. And the reality is that our House of Commons, our federal politics has become very partisan. And it's become more partisan under Stephen Harper because he's a very partisan man. And I think Canadians are tired of that. And I get that frustration because I'm tired of the partisanship. I frankly think that the 308 members of Parliament have a responsibility to work with each other, regardless of what political stripe they wear. Because once you're elected, you're all sitting in the same room for the same purpose,
Right.
to serve the interest of your community and to serve the interest of your country.
Right.
And dividing these strict lines and spending millions of taxpayer dollars promoting yourself and your government's brand, I frankly think is not worthy of the office of the Prime
Getting the
Minister.
red light, but if I can get a quick answer from you, why should the residents of Sault Ste. Marie and area elect you as MP?
I think our community is at a position where it needs to move forward, and I think our community is at a position where it has to start trusting some of its leadership to a new generation of political leaders. I think I'm passionate, I think I'm committed, and I'm experienced, and I've got a significant amount of experience in the last 5 years, not only within the community and contributing to the community through different projects, but actually in Ottawa and working in Ottawa. So I think if Sault Ste. Marie is looking for a strong, committed, enthusiastic, passionate voice, I think they'll find it in me.
Let's step into the path of change and not be afraid to make that change.
Well, you know what? In the end, Sault Ste. Marie will pick who Sault Ste. Marie believes is best to represent it.
Right.
And whatever decision Sault Ste. Marie makes, I'll respect.
Great. Christian, appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very
looks
much
like
indeed.
there will be an election, so we'll have you on again in April. And during the election, it looks like we'll see what happens in the next week or so.
I'll be happy to come back.
Okay, thanks very much.
Take care.
That's our Liberal candidate for Sault Ste. Marie and area, Christian Provenzano, and it looks like we will have an election call in the next week. We'll see how it plays out. I'm Andy Martins, and that's another edition of Political Points right here on local2.ca. Have a great week. We'll see you Thursday.